Evening and welcome to the Raymore City Council regular meeting for Monday, August the 27th. I'll call the meeting to order and ask for the roll call.
Councilmember Abdelgawad. Here. Councilmember Barber.
Present.
Councilmember Berenson.
Present.
Councilmember Burke.
Present.
Councilmember Serko.
Present.
Councilmember Holman.
Present.
Councilmember Kellogg.
Present.
Councilmember Townsend.
Present.
Mayor Turnbow.
Present. Would you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Items 4 and 5, there are none, so we'll move on to number 6, which is staff reports. Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask Mr. Carteret to make a report for community development.
Thank you, sir. For the first time in over 10 years, there's a property owner in the city that's going to be proposing a new residential subdivision. We've had a lot of phases of existing subdivisions come before us, but this is the first one we've had since we've adopted some new ordinances and since we modified the parkland dedication ordinance about 10 years ago. So with all that in mind, staff wanted to meet with the Park Board at work session, which we did a couple of weeks ago. Community development staff and Parks and Recreation staff sat down with the Park Board because we have a lot of new Park Board members, wanted to familiarize them, with what our new requirements are. I thought it was important to go over those requirements in advance of a developer coming forward with a proposal, because it's the Park Board determination on whether to accept actual parkland dedication or a fee in lieu or a combination thereof. The ordinance is very clear, specific on what does and does not qualify for parkland dedication. So the developer and their engineer should have that in front of them when they're laying out their subdivision. They draft that out and they submit that to the city for review. The first step that we do with that proposal is submit it to the Park Board for their review and analysis. The Park Board is going to look at a lot of things, a lot of factors on that proposal. The overall size of the development, what the density is, how many lots, what land are they proposing to dedicate, as well as the topography of the site, et cetera. Because historically we've accepted some land that perhaps we've been generous with on what qualifies for parkland. And so we wanted to be real upfront with the Park Board and the developer. Our ordinance is very clear on what the developer has to set aside coming in. They may have floodplain areas or stream setbacks or a detention basin. Our code's clear that we don't have to accept those areas as parkland dedication. We may want to. Maybe there's a trail segment that we want going through the property that would work in floodplain that we could accept. But generally, we're looking for good, usable parkland to serve the new residents of the subdivision. So we just went over those factors, again, with the Park Board. They'll make a recommendation to the Planning Commission, who will then review the entire subdivision, which would then submit the recommendation for council. Council will make the ultimate decision on the parkland dedication as part of the overall proposal for the subdivision. So we're excited about the new subdivision coming in, the new development, but you want to be prepared for it, and wanted to make sure that we share with council that we're trying to be a little proactive with the Park Board, get them up to speed so they're comfortable when the developer steps in front of them for discussion. And again, look forward to that be submitted in the near future. So that concludes staff report, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, you said it's a new subdivision. Is it a new developer to the area, new to us?
It would be, yes, sir. So it's they have looked in the city in the past. They have, but they haven't specifically developed new subdivision land in the city before. So it'll be a new venture, at least in Raymore for them. They've done it elsewhere.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mr. Kellogg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to commend staff on that report. And the thought going into it, with all the conversations that have taken over the years. I remember those conversations taking place back when me and Mr. Holman were on the P&Z together. And then I also remember Mrs. Hubach going on about that many, many times. So I have to say thank you and commend you for your attention to that and paying attention to the voices of the community and the council over the years. So thank you.
Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Did you tell us what ward of the city it would be in, or can you? I don't want to ask more specifically than that.
The application has not been filed, so I didn't want to give us specifically a location at this time, but we expect it to be filed within a few weeks. And then, of course, it becomes public. And with any proposal of this nature, good neighbor meetings are held and the public's well informed.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, Mr. Carteret. I would ask Mr. Krass to make a report for Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Fearborn, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Want to update you on a few construction projects that are going on. The paver crosswalk project is about 50% complete. They are currently working east of the fire station. Maintenance crews have been busy restriping 58 Highway. They are just about done with that, and then we'll be moving to some of the other arterial roads. Microsurfacing on Dean Avenue starts Thursday. That kind of kicks off our microsurfacing project. We will also be doing some residential streets, so we will be working with communications department to push out updates to the various outlets for as the work occurs. Hawkridge Park is under full swing. The contractor started grading and doing some work on the south end. This week, the American Public Works Association's annual national conference is in Kansas City. So we have taken advantage of that, and our maintenance staff is attending today and tomorrow. It's a great opportunity for them to network, and there are some classes and some other things. Today, the crew leaders were there. There were courses that kind of fit for them, and there's some classes for the regular maintenance workers tomorrow. Myself and my entire administration staff is there all through Wednesday. I actually was invited last Thursday, kind of a late-minute ad, but I had an opportunity to speak to a small cities coalition regarding our accreditation experience. So that was a great fun opportunity, and that concludes staff report.
Thank you, Mike. Any questions? Comments? Yeah, Mr. Holman.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Krass, I've talked to a number of citizens and people that are extremely happy that the 155th Street Bridge is open. So happy, in fact, that I think I can take up a collection and they would put a statue of you near the bridge. My only question is, would you like a chainsaw sculpture or concrete?
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Mr. Fearborn.
I would dovetail off of the discussion on the APWA conference to let you all know that Mr. Krass has, his information to me, several of our crew members spent some time on the equipment sample floor today. So as of tomorrow morning, their purchasing card privileges have been revoked. Thank you, Mr. Krass, for your report. I would call on Mr. Mustine to make a report for Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, sir. Mayor, members of the council, just a couple things tonight. Wanted to remind the council that our legacy program is in full swing. We're updating our forms online, and now's the perfect time to, if anyone wants to participate in this program, fall is the best time to do that, because the bricks, and this is a sample of one of our legacy bricks. This happens to be the one that is in memory of Mr. Moorhead. We install those in the fall, as well as our tribute trees. The bricks, I'm sorry, are for they're $80, and there's plenty of room for engraving for whatever the case may be. So if you have any questions, you can call our department. We have tribute trees also available. Those are $300. We do all the plantings in the fall as well, and as well as the memorial benches. Those are $2,000 with a plaque, and they are along any of the trails in our park system. So now's a great time, just a reminder to the residents to take advantage of that. And if there's any questions, go online to our website or call our Parks and Rec department, and Greta will be more than happy to help you out with that. Also, Mr. Krass mentioned that Hawkridge Park is in full swing tomorrow. Just a reminder, we have the ribbon or the groundbreaking ceremony at 4 o'clock down at the park. So I invite everybody to come to that.
That's a big park, Nate. Where's that at?
That'll be on the south entrance as we're coming. No, I'm sorry, on the north entrance, the main parking lot area. Okay. Yeah, just go to the main area where is typically the park, okay. What has been known as the park until today. And then just a thanks to my staff and the volunteers who came out to the mini mud run a couple weeks ago. For those of you who don't know, Last year we had about 250 kids, and we usually expect about 50 to 60 more kids every year to grow. And this year we had right at 400 kids pay and participate in this. It was fantastic. Sergeant Billings and I, we were out there and just kind of doing an estimate, and we estimated right around 1,000 people just at any given time in the park, and it's not even a developed park yet. The event is fantastic. The volunteers are great. It's one of those events where there's a smile on every kid's face and a smile on every parent's face, and unless they're hurt, everybody's happy. And we didn't really have anybody get hurt, and that's always a great thing. So it's a great event. We're so thrilled to be able to host that for not only our community but our region. This year we noticed people from out of town coming to us, seeing us on Facebook, and just word of mouth spreading. So we had people from Grandview and Lee Summit that I specifically talked to that just saw us on Facebook and wanted to come. So thanks to Mike and Melissa for helping with that, and just everybody that was involved. It was a great event. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks for the information. Anybody have any? Mr. Barber.
Yeah, I had a question about the mini mud run. And like you said, it drew from all over the region. Does anybody else do anything like that anywhere near us, or just curious?
From a municipal standpoint, no. We are the only ones in the Kansas City metro area that host our own. There are private ones, such as the Kids Tough Mudder or the Rugged Maniac, things that are contracted and brought in. They have a child's version of it. The closest one that I'm aware of is Columbia. I could be wrong. There could be more, but that's the one that that I know about, and frankly that I've gone on and stole some ideas from them too. So.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mustine. I would ask Mr. Icky to make a report for communications.
Thank you, sir. I wanted to use my opportunity tonight to talk a little bit about the upcoming community conversation on October 1st. I want to make sure that council is aware of all the items that you'll be seeing out in the public. We have a pretty extensive communications campaign that will be supporting that event that you'll see throughout the month. Starting tomorrow, you'll see emails going out to those that attended the previous community conversation in the winter of 2016. We collected about 350 email addresses. We'll be sending out save the dates to those folks who attended the previous event to come to the October event. The review, which will be out in mailboxes on the week of September 1st or the following week, will also have a full-page article inviting residents to the event and giving more details about what the KU Public Management Center will be doing, what the council's role is through this process. We'll also have banners going up along 58 Highway at Dean and 58, at Fox Ridge and 58, and as well as on 58 Highway in front of the post office, which are really three kind of our most visual locations along the highway. Also tonight I have yard signs. What we'd like to do is invite council members to also take some of the yard signs home if possible to advertise the event, and then also invite folks that you know in your neighborhood and on your street to attend the event. One of the things we learned in the original series of community conversations, if you weren't a part of the council at the time, we asked the council members and really all members of the boards and commissions to invite at least 5 of your closest friends or neighbors and really make a personal kind of a personal invitation to those folks. And we found that as folks felt that they were having, as they received that personal invitation, they were more invested and more interested in attending. And so we would ask that council members, and we'll be making the same ask of all our other volunteers and boards and commission members to invite folks to that event. Along with the KU Public Management Center coming on October 1st, they'll also be attending the September 17th work session and holding kind of a mini conversation just with the City Council to kick off the event and really gather some insight from council members as to what you all would like to see asked and some of the feedback that you would specifically like to see at that event. And so they'll be building some of the program off that September 17th meeting. I'm open to any questions and look forward to this event as we start promoting it all month.
Yes, we are. Anyone? Thank you, Mike. You covered it very well. Thank you. Fantastic. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Icky. Just a reminder that the Next week is Labor Day holiday, so there will be no work session. The next work session will be the September 17th work session of the City Council. We will be having a presentation at the Council's request relative to one of the expansion items relative to the command vehicle. Mr. Murdoch will be present for that. We will be having the community conversation, and the mayor has boards and commission appointments to bring before the council. That concludes staff reports this evening, sir.
Thank you. Anybody have questions of Mr. Fearborn? Okay, moving right along. We have no committee reports tonight. Next item is our consent agenda. We only have one item on the consent agenda, which is the council minutes of August the 13th. I would entertain a motion to dispose of that.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda to include item A, City Council minutes, August 13th, 2018.
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carries 8-0. Could please have the second reading of Bill 3382 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3382 by title only, an ordinance pursuant to Section 67.110 of the revised statutes of Missouri, levying general and special taxes in the city of Raymore, Missouri for the year 2018.
Thank you. Is there a motion to dispose of this bill?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 3382 for setting the 2018 tax levy.
I'll second the motion, sir.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve Bill 3382. Any further discussion? Ms. Abdelgawad.
Just kind of a question, just to be sure that everyone is very clear on what we're doing with this resolution. Is this any increase in anyone's taxes?
No, ma'am. This is no increase in folks' taxes that they are paying to the city. The school district did increase their levy, so some people I know have responded relative to that. But yes, the city taxes remain exactly the same, and it includes a rollback.
Thank you. Anyone else? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Can I please have the second reading of Bill 3381 by title only?
The second reading of Bill 3381 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, establishing a procedure to disclose potential conflicts of interest and substantial interest for certain officials and candidates for elective offices.
As you know, this is an annual thing that we have to, that we generally pass, so I would entertain a motion to dispose of Bill 3381.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 3381 for the financial disclosure ordinance.
I'll second the motion, sir.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3381. Any further discussion? Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to thank you for saying that this is something that we do every year, because when we approved it last time, I was going to ask, thinking that we had done this multiple times, and so I appreciate that clarification.
Sure. Anyone else? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Can I please have the second reading of Bill 3383 by title only?
Second reading of Bill 3383 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement for the purchase of the FlexNet meter reading system from Core and Main LP.
Thank you. Is there a motion to dispose of Bill 3383?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 3383, award of contract for the FlexNet meter reading system.
I'll second the motion, sir.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3383. Any further discussion? Ms. Abdelgawad.
Thank you. Just a quick question that came up on this. Is this going to take away any jobs that are currently, that we have people doing in the city, and or does this, in the long run, save the city money?
It saves the city money. It allows the citizens instantaneous access to their billing and what's going on with their meter, and no positions are lost.
Thank you. Anything else? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Can I please have the second reading of Bill 3384 by title only?
Second reading of Bill 3384 by title only, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of $1,190,000 principal amount of the tax-exempt special obligation bonds Series 2018 of the City of Raymore, Missouri, and authorizing certain other documents and actions by the city.
Thank you. Is there a motion to dispose of the second reading of Bill 3384?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 3384 for the Special Obligation Series 2018 bond issue.
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you. The motion's been made and seconded to approve the second reading of Bill 3384. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries 8-0 unanimously. Thank you. Move on to new business at this time. Could I please have the first reading of Bill 3387 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3387 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, amending various sections of the Unified Development Code.
Thank you. This item requires a public hearing. I will open a public hearing at this time and ask for a staff report.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would ask Mr. Carteret to make staff report on this agenda item.
Thank you, sir. Bill 3387 proposes the 28th Amendment to the Unified Development Code. This code came out of discussions back in June by the Planning Commission when they completed their annual review of the document. At that time, staff proposed 12 amendments to the Unified Development Code. At its July public hearing, the Commission recommended approval of 10 of those 12 proposals. They set two of the items aside for further discussion, which is ongoing. Those two deal with proposed changes to the sidewalk requirement in residential subdivisions that may be coming forward to the council in the near future. But of the 10 amendments that were proposed, it included revising the curb requirement in parking lots, simply allowing the removal of curb in certain parts of a parking lot to allow stormwater to be more naturally treated, so it's not all rushed into a storm sewer. It actually could flow off the property into a stormwater treatment area. It revised requirements for planting street trees. So when a developer proposes to do street trees as an amenity, we simply, as a city, want additional right-of-way, additional room between a curb and a sidewalk to allow proper planting area for street trees. We've been crowding them into smaller areas, so we want to increase the width of the right-of-way when that's proposed. Proposing to require screening for commercial recycling containers. So in our new commercial industrial developments, the trash containers required to be enclosed. But some businesses are doing the larger recycling containers now too, and sometimes they could be on wheels rolling around the parking lot. They need to be contained just like a commercial trash receptacle. Proposing eliminating some repetitive language. We made some changes in our standard specification manual. That's duplicated in the code. That language needs to be removed from the code and included in our standard specification manual. And we're proposing a revision to the definition of manufactured home, just as there's new trends for container homes, things of that nature. Our definition of manufactured home just needed to be revised. So since it is a code amendment, we did advertise for a public hearing this evening. Duty to enter into the record our growth management plan, the Unified Development Code, the notice of publication in the Journal for the hearing tonight, and the staff report that was submitted to you this evening. And it was at its July 17th meeting that the Commission voted 8-0 to accept the staff proposed findings of fact and forward the 28th Amendment with the 10 proposed revisions to the Council with the recommendation of approval. And then in your packet, I included the minutes from Planning Commission when they discussed these 10 items. So that concludes staff report, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of staff? Mr. Berenson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In reading through this, Mr. Carteret, I have a question specific to page 146 and 147 with the insurance requirements. I see that we've eliminated the breakdown of the insurance coverage amounts, and we've changed that to insurance shall be on a form furnished by the city in the amount established by the city. Are we changing our insurance requirements, or are we tailoring those to the project? What are we doing to necessitate getting rid of the chart here?
We weren't specifically proposing to change the amounts, but when you specify them in the amount, we may want to change that in the future. We may want to increase it as a city in the future. When it's locked into code, it's just a more cumbersome process to change. So it makes it a little bit more fluid, if you would. If we for some reason had to change the requirements, we could do so through our internal requirements rather than specified in code. So anybody that'd be submitting certificates of insurance are made aware in advance of what the requirements are. We simply don't want them specified specifically in the code.
Okay, so the process will be, I'm sure, to be equitable. So every applicant will have the same insurance requirements?
Yes, as far as the submittal of the document,
Okay.
yes.
All right, thank you, sir.
And if I could add on to that, we several years ago, the council members who were here will remember we did the exact same thing with the fee schedule. We went through code, and instead of referencing a specific fee to a specific item in the code, where the fee may be changed by council action every single year, instead we say, as is listed on the fee schedule. It's the same sort of an application here, sir.
Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not necessarily a question, but I would have had questions had I not had the opportunity to watch the video. Every question that I came across, like say the glass recycling bin across the street, to hide that behind a screen, I think would be silly, because then people wouldn't know it exists. And so that I appreciated those kind of questions from the commission, and those were addressed appropriately, and looks good. Thank you.
Mr. Kellogg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is in the context of the item manufactured homes, C, it's all new, not constructed under the requirements of the International 1 or 2 Family Residential Code. Is that a different code than the, and I'm losing my terms, but the international building codes that we up here are used to, that what staff always goes back to determine whether it's safe and a healthy environment for the community? Is this something new? And does this revert back to something lesser than what we come to expect?
It is not something new, sir. It's not anything lesser than what you've come to expect. It is part of the overall series of international codes. So we have international plumbing, we have international 1 and 2 family code, which we've been under for well over a decade. The International Building Code applies to commercial and industrial buildings. The 1 and 2 family apply to our single family and our 2 family dwelling units. So we're not changing any of the requirements or expectations we've had over many years.
Thank you.
Good question. Anyone else? Thank you. As this is a public hearing, if there's anyone in the audience that would like to address this item with the council at this time, please step forward, state your name and address for the record, and please keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing at this time. And is there a motion to dispose of this item?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 3387 for the 28th Amendment to the Unified Development Code.
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3387. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. Can I please have the first reading of Bill 3385 by title only?
The first reading of Bill 3385 by title only, an ordinance of the City of Raymore, Missouri, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Bright Construction, LLC for the Owen Good Force Main Valve Replacement, City Project 18-312-201, in the amount of $29,760.
Thank you. Is there a staff report?
Thank you, sir. I would ask Mr. Krass to make the staff report on this agenda item.
Thank you, Mr. Fairborn, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This project involves the replacement of a control valve that connects the excess flow basins at the Owen Good pumping station with the pump chamber itself. Of note, in the staff memo, there's quite a disparity between the 2 bids that we received. We contacted J&N Utilities, and they proposed to supply a valve that's better suited for water main applications. It has a lot tighter tolerances. It has a different valve seat. But with all the grit and everything else that's in the sewage, it really has the potential to impact the ability to close the valve because of the grit and everything with the tight tolerances. So we are recommending that we award the contract to Bright Construction as proposed. That concludes staff report.
Thank you. Any questions of staff? Mr. Kellogg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to share a quick story. One of my engineers at work used to work for us here at the city, and I won't say his name. I don't want to embarrass him, but we were talking about this item in particular today, and he asked me if I'd been to the Owen Good lift station. I said no, but I had been offered a tour if I did wish, and he told me all of the things that exist down there, and I'm like, wow. But anyway, with what Mike said, that is amazing that we can get this done for $29,000, and I can see why that disparaging amount is so much. If they bid that at a valve that would be destroyed under the circumstances, this is most prudent. So it was just kind of interesting to have that conversation with my engineer today, and then to hear it tonight. So thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was curious. We've had a little bit of action on this over the years that I've been here. I got thinking, what year did this pumping station go into effect originally?
I believe it was the late 70s.
Mr. Berenson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll quickly add that I'm aware that Bright Construction is a local company, and they've worked with us quite a bit in the past, it seems. So, or at least a few times, I'm sure. So I look forward to them doing a good job on this project like they have in the past. Thank you.
Anyone else? Was there a motion made? There was, wasn't there? Not yet?
I believe that was the question section, sir.
Okay.
So there's no motion made as of yet.
You're right. Okay. I lost track there. So is there a motion to dispose of the first reading of Bill 3385?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve Bill 3385, award of contract for the Owen Good Force Main Valve Replacement Project.
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you. Now a motion's been made and seconded to approve the first reading of Bill 3385. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Motion carries unanimously, 8-0. That concludes the business, formal business. We'll move on to public comments at this time. If anyone would like to address the council at this time, please step forward, state your name and address for the record, and try to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Seeing none, we'll move on to Mayor Council communication. I'll start with, to my right, Mr. Holman.
Thank you, sir. It's not lost on me that we have students in the audience tonight. Obviously, school's back in session, and we will see several of them and their colleagues going forward. I'm going to skip my traditional speech to them in favor of something else. I hope I am not stepping on your toes, sir, knowing your military service. I wear a navy blue shirt tonight in honor of the death of Senator John McCain, which occurred on Saturday. Many of you know that Senator McCain was a very well-known politician within our country, a long-time standing senator from the state of Arizona, also ran for President of the United States, I believe, in 2008. What you may or may not know about Senator McCain was that he was a naval aviator during the Vietnam War. He was shot down over North Vietnam and was held prisoner in what became known in the field as Hanoi Hilton for 5.5 years. That is roughly the equivalent of 10% of the man's life that he gave in service to his country unwillingly. Senator McCain came from a background of privilege. His father was a setting admiral at the time of his capture by the North Vietnamese. The North Vietnamese saw an opportunity for an improvement in their propaganda system by offering to release then Commander McCain, I believe it was, to release him because of who his father was. Commander McCain refused unless all of prisoners of war at that time would be released. Again, they held him for 5.5 years. I did not agree many times with the politics of Senator McCain, but I have great respect for someone who served his country in the military, for someone who had to go through and endure the torture and beatings that he had to do, and for his time and his work in the U.S. Senate. A couple of quotes. One of my favorites from Senator McCain was during the 2008 presidential election, and of course the talk came up about whether or not we were spending too much money in this country, and how many people had likened Congress's spending to that of a drunken sailor. Senator McCain said something to the effect, and I paraphrase, "Having been a drunken sailor, I stopped spending when I ran out of money." And then another quote that I have about Senator McCain, which was made just about a year ago today's date. "He served his country, and not always right, made a lot of mistakes and a lot of errors, but served his country, and I hope we can add honorably." The author of that quote was Senator McCain himself when asked how he thought he would like to be remembered. So please keep the McCain family and the nation in your thoughts and prayers in this time of national mourning. That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Very well said, Jay. Thank you. Mr. Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to commend the city manager and his staff for the hard work they put on this year's budget. One of the first things that impressed me when I first came on the council was Mr. Fairborn gave me the copy of the budget as a new council member. And you know, back then I didn't appreciate the work that went into that process. I do now, very much so. You know, and Mr. Holman, I think, refers to it as the book. I do remember the words, though, you told me. I don't know if you remember, but you said, "Sir, this is the most important thing we do for our city." And I truly believe that, and I know you believe it. I know you put a lot of time and effort in it. I believe our city works because of the time and energy that you and your staff put in that process. And I look forward to finalizing it and starting to put it to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barber. Mr. Abdelwad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to take a minute to recognize staff. This evening's meeting has been an excellent example of how proactive the city staff is, the leaders of our city are, planning ahead, taking the opportunity to talk to Parks Board about a new subdivision coming and getting them prepared for that meeting. All of the work that's going into planning for the community conversations to ensure that we have a great turnout again with this follow-up meeting. I think it's awesome that we're giving our public works staff the opportunity, it sounded like every single one of them, to go to this conference that's in Kansas City this year. I know that on many occasions the council has promoted professional development for our staff, so I think it's great that to see that follow through with that. All of the incredible things going on with the Parks Department takes a lot of planning and preparation, planning ahead and being proactive. Being able to accommodate 1,000 people at the mini mud run and 400 participants, planning for all of the new development at Hawk Ridge Park is pretty exciting, and then continuing things that we've had going for quite a while that we just hope to keep growing, like the Parks Legacy program. Those are just a few examples of things I wrote down from tonight's meeting that are excellent examples of what an incredible staff we have and just the value of being proactive and planning ahead. So thanks to all the staff. I hope you'll pass that along.
Thank you very much. Mr. Berenson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilman Abdelgawad stole all my notes, I think, because you said everything I was going to say. So instead of having original thought, I'll just go back to the prior three and address them quickly. Jay, great presentation on Mr. McCain. I also have a lot of respect for that man. Didn't always agree with him, but I believe this nation lost a man of great character and great dedication to this country. Kevin, you're spot on with your comments about city staff and the work that goes into the budget. I also didn't fathom how much work went into this and how important it was until the second time around and finishing the first process. So again, city staff and Mr. Fairborn, thank you. And Sonia covered the rest of what I had to say. So I'm looking, yeah, thank you. Looking forward to the community conversation, looking forward to the comments and the suggestions the council will have as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Serco.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, being a new guy here, a few months, you know, I did a lot of budgets with the company, my corporation, my business, with the chamber. But then when you get on the side of a city budget, it's extremely different. It's massive. It really is. And I always fathom it would be. But like I said before, you know, the work that the staff puts together, the heads all the way down to all their associates and workers is phenomenal. I mean, when you're within a city, most people will say we're the largest small city you could ever find. Largest small city, people understand it, because in here we look at ourselves as a community of so massive, of so large. But outside us, when you talk to people, they look at Raymore as this huge community in Cass County, this upstanding, growing, onward. I mean, we're always on top of what we do. Like you said, you've got your staff, you got your head, you go to these meetings. You're always staying ahead, one step ahead of where we're going and other cities are going, the bigger cities. And that's what we need to do. And that's, I thank you for that. And you guys give all that. That's very time consuming. But we do have a great staff. We got great employees, the city, the parks, our police department. It's just phenomenal what we do together in the community. Really, if you go and talk to a lot of the community people, which I've done for years when I was here working as an insurance, they really feel so comfortable and peaceful and safe in this community and love what the city does. So I've gone out and talked to many people, and I could never understand until I get on this side. And this side, I can see where the council, the mayor, and what we have. It is a great organization. It's 2 steps ahead of the next ones down the street. We always will be that way. So I want to thank you for all that. And I had the privilege in 2008, being with the Cass County Republicans, to meet with Senator McCain. I got to go out to down here in Belton when he had his we had his grand finale where he was on the podium talking, and I got to be that group of people sat right behind him as he talked, and met him personally on a few different occasions that day and that few days. And that was kind of a real, and we were really excited for Senator McCain. And I remember that time coming to North Cass. It was kind of really phenomenal at that time. Just in 2008, people didn't understand, but it was very uplifting. But he will be missed. A great senator, a great veteran. You know, we lose some great people, and all we can do is try to continue to walk where they left off. And I think we can, and I know we will. But again, I've been, you know, just kind of touching base with some of the stuff that's already been said. I'm kind of on the back end of that, so I'm just kind of agreeing with a lot of that. But I really want to always say that the city, the people, the police, the Parks and Rec, everything they're doing, you're such a good group. You're one body. And that's what I've always teach people, one body. The arm falls off, it doesn't work well. We are one body, and every unit and everything we have is part of that one body. And when it's got to be working together, it does very well, and we do very, very well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Burke.
Thank you. Wanted to mention that as I read the budget, there were 3 places that I believe in there where Mr. Fairborn took a page to thank his staff. I think 3 different places in the budget book. And there was a 4th place that was even more important. When the budget was put together, it let all the workers, all the staff know that they were all going to be given a raise with this budget. They were all going to move through the steps. So many times I've been in a situation like this where the budget's going through and it goes through, and then months later you try to figure out, well, so is anybody gonna get any raise this year? We don't know. And this one was pretty clear, and I think that's the biggest thank you can give to the staff, is to appreciate their work they do, and as they go and do professional development and learn to do their jobs better, you appreciate them where it counts the most, where they can apply that to their family. But I did notice that, and that was well done. Good leadership.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to make this quick. The same as everyone said to my right. I have the same comments, so I'm not going to repeat them all. Very well said. But I will add, and I want to thank Mr. Mayor for nominating me. I did have an opportunity to sit on the Total Transportation Committee meeting last week with Mr. Crass from Public Works, as well as Mr. Roku. I believe I always mess his last name up. Excellent opportunity to sit in that meeting, as you've heard me say several times regarding transportation within the area, and to sit in on that meeting, that 3.5 hour meeting. It's rather interesting and true to form. Got down to the last half hour of the meeting, start talking budget and funding. And there's some funding, some outstanding projects set for the Belton Bridge area. But true to form, conversations about funding got going, and all of a sudden that became in jeopardy. So obviously the team is engaged with the parties involved to try to figure out and try to preserve that funding to make sure things move ahead. But it's an excellent opportunity. I thank you for that opportunity to sit on that. And so we'll be continuing those conversations to continue to drive the area, as I said, not just for Raymore, but for Cass County to represent, so that we can get that attention back down here, so that we can continue to grow this area. As we grow, our transportation needs grow as well. So again, thank you for that.
Okay. Mr. Kellogg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank Mr. Holman for tonight's rendition. I don't want to say rendition. I don't have the word for it, but thank you for your words and wisdom and kindness to Senator McCain. It was very well put together and very well spoken. Very, in my opinion, very true. Spot on. So thank you for that. I could not have done what you did tonight. I will say this, that, you know, Councilman Burke did speak of the 3 different times in the budget, actually 4 different times where staff says thank you, where Jim says thank you to staff. I'm going to say this, you know, with my years that I've been on here, I've been here the whole time since Jim has been city manager. He's always said to me privately, and I've even heard him say publicly, that had it not been for the staff, he would not be able to present what he presents. That is definitely a team effort, and that is the book. That is the book. And I do know that staff is very, very, very proud of it, and I'm positive that they will receive a commendation on that, just like they have for, I think, the last 14 years. 14, wow, that's 4 more than I am. So, you know, congratulations. The one thing that I do want to say, though, is, you know, and I spoke about it a little bit earlier in regards to one of my engineers at work. I wish that I could drop a name. I wish I could drop a family's name, but I'm not going to. But I am extremely proud of this individual who is one of my engineers at work. What he does is very, very, let's just say, important to this nation's security. And that's somebody that I work with and I answer to, and I get my guidance and my answers from. And he started right here part-time working in the Parks and Rec and Public Works Department. I admire this young man so much. You know, he has a very good career as a mechanical engineer. He put that on hold so he could join the services. He joined the Army, walked away from his career for 6 months to put his nation at the forefront. You know, I can only imagine how proud his father is, based on what his abilities and his capabilities are, to put that off to go into the Army. And I'm not trying to minimize that. That's how much I admire him. I admire him, and so much of that comes from the example and the expectations that formed him in his years as a teenager working for us. You know, and I can see that. I hear his stories, you know. I think he is probably maybe only 26 years old. And it's just amazing, you know, so it's really nice. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is thank you to staff for mentoring him, mentoring many like him, because I can only imagine he's just one, but you have sent one out into the world, into the real world work world, that does extremely important work for this nation. And I am proud to say that I work right beside him, and I'll stand with him any day. So thank you. And thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kellogg. Well, I can't possibly add to any of the items that were spoken about tonight, except to thank Jay again for the wonderful eulogy of Senator McCain, and Navy veteran. He was certainly a patriot, and it speaks volumes. The man, I don't think, was ever questioned about his love of country, and he will be missed. I'm excited about the October 1 community conversation. Looking forward to the opportunity to work with the community to see what new projects can come before us. New ideas come to that meeting. That'll be an exciting time. And thank you again for the budget. Thank you for the guidance, by the way, at the end of the budget for the process of deciding what particular needs might be able to be addressed. I appreciated that list. We've kind of seen over the past couple of years, we've kind of gone in different directions, but with that list of items, we can actually focus on what's best for moving forward, especially from the perspective of the department heads that you lean on very heavily for that input, so I appreciate that. I think that's all I have at this time. We do have a need to go into executive session, so I would ask for a motion to do that.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we go into executive session to discuss litigation and personnel matters in accord with RSMO 610.021, subsections 1 and 3.
I'll second the motion, sir.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded to move into executive session. Could I please have the roll call?
Councilmember Abdelgawad?
Yes.
Councilmember Barber?
Yes.
Councilmember Berenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Burke?
Yes.
Councilmember Circo?
Yes.
Councilmember Holman?
Yes.
Councilmember Kellogg?
Yes.
Councilmember Townsend?
Yes.
Thank you. We will move into executive session at this time. Upon adjournment of executive session, we will then adjourn from the regular meeting.